Hello and welcome to another episode of the Smash Accept podcast. I'm your host, Michael Royer. You can find me on Twitter at Dynasty Dad FF. Joined as always by my main man, FF Snoog. And today, what we're going to talk about, we're jumping right into it. We're going to talk about Caleb Williams trades. We have so many different, variations of what's been going on with Caleb Williams. Everyone's hyped up about, Ben Johnson coming in, the weapons they added in Colston Loveland, Luther Burden. Snoog and I are here to help you break down all your trades from every different angle. We have 12 actionable trades here we're going to get to. We're really going to break down every single one. But Snoog, this is someone that you and I have been in on since day one. A lot of people look at it and they're going to say, well, he had a down year one, and they're going to say this is a quarterback who, might not make it. And to me, that's ludicrous. Like, you look at what he did his rookie year, 3,541 passing yards. So he was approaching that first Bears quarterback to hit 4K. He had multiple games over 300 yards, 20 passing touchdowns, 489 rushing yards. And when you look at how round one quarterbacks have stacked up over the last, decade plus, he was a top 10 quarterback as far as, or actually, I should say all time, top 10 as far as rookie fantasy production goes. And a lot of people gets lost in the sauce because Jaden Daniels was number 2 all time. And Bo Nix was number 5 all time of how they produced year one. Talk to me a little bit about Caleb Williams and how excited you are for this particular offseason.
Yeah, he has all the tools you're looking for in an elite fantasy football quarterback prospect because he has the rushing upside. He has that ability to hit that 500-plus rushing yard floor, score 4, 5, 6 touchdowns in the ground. But he also has an absolute gunslinging arm. He can throw for 4,000 yards with ease. With this new offense with Ben Johnson, things are going to be easier. He finally has a competent head coach with structure around him, an elite offensive line that they built around him. They brought in Loveland. They brought in Burden. They still have DJ Moore and Odunze. DeAndre Swift's still there to be a passing down running back for him and get the ground game running. This Bears offense is going to be completely different. They're going to do a 180 from last year of what we saw. I think that Caleb Williams has a very clear path to be a top 5 finishing quarterback this upcoming season. And like you said, everyone looks at Daniels, Bo Nix, and they say, oh, Caleb Williams was bad as a rookie. If those two didn't exist, he'd be like right behind CJ Stroud for some of the best rookie quarterback seasons we've seen alongside Justin Herbert in a long time. So these guys, don't worry about him. His rushing upside is his talent. Just remember, he was the first overall pick for a reason in a stacked class. And he has that pedigree of one of the best quarterback prospects in a long time. So,
yeah, before we start breaking down the trades, I think you look at what Jared Goff has done over the last 2 years with Ben Johnson, and he's been top 8 back-to-back seasons. And Jared Goff is a great quarterback. He's a great stability type quarterback. Caleb Williams has a much higher ceiling. Caleb Williams right now in your startups has the Superflex ADP, according to Dynasty Data Lab, of 17. That's behind CeeDee Lamb, Ashton Jeanty, Patrick Mahomes, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Brian Thomas Jr., Puka, and even Trey McBride. And he's going 1 pick before Saquon Barkley. This is the type of value that you can get when you look at how he's viewed upon for sheer value. I believe he's more closer to the 101, but they have him listed here. A lot of people are thinking it's 102 plus now. And Snoog, we're gonna talk about a couple of trades here, but let's break into that first one here. I mean, if you are on the clock right now, and this is a trade set in. I put this out there on Twitter and you guys came out hard. I mean, you guys sent over 50, 60 trades in 2 hours, but we picked some of the best ones that I kind of liked here. Snoog, on the clock in a 12-team super flex, 6-point passing touchdown, nothing else, no bells and whistles. Would you rather have Caleb Williams or Ashton Jeanty?
Yeah, this is definitely close because I've looked at this, but I'm taking Caleb Williams in 6-point passing super flex leagues. I think if it's like 10-man 4-point passing, I take Jeanty. But in like 12-man or 14-man and it's 6-point passing, I want Caleb here because, like you said, why isn't Caleb Williams still a first-round startup pick? Or why isn't he 201 or 202 in startups? Like, he is, 22 years old still. He has all the tools to be an elite fantasy football finisher. He has finally the 2 most important things. He has the 3 most important things we look for in a quarterback to succeed. 1, an offensive line. 2, weapons. And 3, a competent, good coaching staff. Some type of dynamic, offensive-minded coach in that coaching staff. He checks all 3 damn boxes. 4th, the bonus on top, the elite talent. He has all the tools, all the rushing upside. So he checks every damn box you're looking for to be one of those Jaden Daniels, Lamar Jackson, Josh Daniels, Joe Burrows, Jalen Hurts type of quarterbacks. because he has the skills and the weapons around him. Ben Johnson's going to make things so easy for him. There's going to be a ton of splash plays, a ton of touchdown passes, a ton of rushing design plays, I bet. So you got to take him here over a running back, even though we love Jeanty. He's a cornerstone foundational asset. But the quarterback is always going to win out over a running back most times.
And the only way I'm even considering that is, and this isn't how we play at Smash Accept, but if Caleb Williams was my QB3 and I could get Jeanty and Geno Smith for Caleb Williams and another running back or something in that way, I like to compare him more to just straight up the quarterbacks in that range. And what's really interesting to me is he's QB8 and Drake Maye's QB9. You look at where they're at, in this particular trade, someone felt a little bit more bullish on Drake Maye than Caleb Williams. I've seen a lot of people on Twitter prefer Drake Maye. So let's break this down a little bit. We were talking about all-time fantasy finishes as a rookie. Drake Maye's number 21. Caleb Williams is number 10. A lot of people are going to say, well, Dad, I mean, the Patriots wide receiver room was abysmal. Oh yeah, it was horrible. Like, let's be honest. I mean, it's Pop Douglas, Kayshon Boutte, Kendrick Bourne. It's bad.
Yep.
But now we look at Caleb Williams on the other side. His coaching staff, he had the weapons, but that is the worst coaching staff that we've ever seen. Like, as far as how they utilize the weapons, how we do their things. Ideally, I'm buying both of these quarterbacks. Drake Maye wins the offseason, as does Caleb Williams. Drake Maye gets Travion Henderson. He gets Will Campbell. He gets Stephon Diggs. You look on the other side, and Caleb Williams now is set up for the next 5 years because they get Luther Burden, Colston Loveland. Like, everything is in line for both of these quarterbacks. We both preferred Caleb Williams in the draft process. We were both, had Drake Maye in more of that 104, 105, 106 range. Caleb was everybody's 101. Today, does that change at all? Is the gap closed? Talk to me about these two quarterbacks.
Both great quarterbacks. Love both of these guys, especially Drake Maye. Drake Maye's value, I think, has caught up a lot in terms of, like, he should be properly valued in that, like, QB 9 to 12 range. He just doesn't have the situation or the upside that Caleb Williams has. If you switch these guys, I'd take Drake Maye 10 times out of 10. 10 times out of 10.
If you mean switch the teams? Yeah.
If you put him on the Bears and put Caleb on the Pats, yes. But that's not the case. I'm taking Caleb Williams here. I do think Caleb's more talented. I think Drake Maye does better with structure than Caleb Williams does. I think he has more pros to his game than Caleb does, but I think Caleb has the better highs than Drake Maye does. And for fantasy football, with the situation he's in, I think that's going to lead to a much higher ceiling. They both have crazy good rushing upside. I think Drake Maye's a better rusher, but I think Caleb Williams is going to have a lot more splash plays with all the weapons he has around him. Because really, with Drake Maye, you're banking on Stephon Diggs. If he's not 100% off that ACL tear, what else does he have? Third round pick Kyle Williams. Great. He's a good role player. We like him. We think he can be good, but there's no guarantees there. Yes, Travion Henderson's an elite running back that's explosive, and the O-line got a lot better, but I still just want to see more from that Patriots offense and want to see more weapons coming his way. Like, if we said, oh, he got Stephon Diggs and Emeka Egbuka, or Stephon Diggs and T. Higgins, or Stephon Diggs and Luther Burden, I think it'd be a little bit closer of a conversation. But, I mean, Caleb Williams is like number 4 wide receiver, would be Drake Maye's second best option. So,
yeah, and I mean, we talk about Will Campbell got added to the Patriots situation. The Bears went out and revamped that whole offensive line. That offensive line now is going to be top 5 in the NFL. It's really set up for Caleb to thrive in this particular situation. So that's kind of where we're at. I think if you look in that area of Drake Maye, Ashton Jeanty, Brian Thomas Jr., Amon-Ra St. Brown, if you really need a quarterback, this is your way to go. Snoog and I have been preaching since day one to really invest in foundational quarterbacks in your rookie draft. That's why we're not trying to trade for these guys now, because the 101, last year is not the same as what these guys are now. Or the 105 last year in Drake Maye is not what you're paying now. Now you're paying darn near ceiling price on Drake Maye. I think, you could see him go up maybe a half a round, because you're seeing him go mid-second. Snoog, I don't see him going higher ever in his career, maybe than, say, 108, and that would be an absolute Joe Burrow type ceiling. Caleb Williams, on the other hand, I think we could see him easily get into that area. Let's break down the first trade. I know this one's a little bit near and dear to your heart. This is from what Don't Give a Flock. So this is a league that you're in with Flock Fantasy. Danny gets Caleb Williams and the 26th second here. Sonny 7 Black gets Tua Tagovailoa and 226 firsts. So I know you're in this league, so break it down a little bit further for me so I can know what these 26 firsts look like, what that second looks like, and then if this is a trade that you would make.
Yeah, so I'm not actually in this league, but Danny saw my post, good friend over from the Flock, or not from Flock, from Fantasy Stock Exchange, and he sent this over and said, here's a Caleb Willaims trade I made. This is exactly what we're preaching. Both those picks are projected mid to late. His team stacked. He's given up his own first, and Tua to get a big upgrade here at the quarterback position. This is cowbell. This is what we preach. Like taking that Michael Penix, that Tua Tagovailoa, that Justin Fields, those type of QBs, that the certainty and the long-term stability is just so shaky, and going up there and getting a foundational asset and a second back, which could be a mid to early type second. So this is bread and butter right here. Yeah.
I think Tua and 2 firsts seems a little bullish, as far as that, because right now Tua is about 107, 108 for me. You add on 2 firsts to get to somebody who's worth the 101. It's reasonable, right? But you get that second in there. I think that puts it over the top for you. And it's a matter of, like Snoog said, we don't do that at the wide receiver position. We're trying to tier up off of our Zay Flowers and our Jordan Addison types. At the quarterbacks, even more so. I do not own any shares where I'm rolling with your Tuas or your guys that are depreciating in value, guys that are going to potentially lose even more this next year. Next trade sent in here, and I like this one a lot as well. We talked about. All right, I'm sorry. This one I wanted to get your opinion because this is kind of on the other side. I saw a couple trades where I saw Caleb Willaims and 228 firsts for Jayden Daniels. I see this one's Caleb Willaims, the 103 and 212 for Mark Andrews, Jayden Daniels, and the 108. Now, what I want to preface here is we talk about this all the time. I put a post out there during the rookie drafts, and you and I are very familiar with how it went down. It saw a lot of people attacking it, but I said, hey, drop from 101 to 104 and get Jayden Daniels, because most drafts, Marv was going 2, Malik was going 3, Jayden was going 4. I can't tell you how many times I traded back from 1 to 4 to get that extra draft capital. Snoog, now you have an opportunity to do the opposite. And I think Jayden Daniels, the number 2 rookie all-time fantasy production that we've ever seen. I think he's in the argument for the 101. He's in that definite top 3, as far as quarterbacks, as far as startups go. Is this enough for you to move off of Jayden Daniels? I think the 108 puts it over the top for me, but let's call this Jayden Daniels and Mark Andrews for the 103 and Caleb Willaims. Or would you do the other trade that I was talking about where it was Caleb Willaims and 228 first for Jayden Daniels? Like, what is the gap? Let's take a look at how we can extract value, right? That's what we're always trying to do. When I did this last year, I preferred Caleb Willaims over Jayden Daniels, but I saw the upside of Jayden Daniels. When you get Daniels plus, that gives you an opportunity to win and insulate. If you get Caleb plus now, the opportunity is swinging now in your favor.
Yeah, exactly. In 1 year, like, set it and forget it. Daniels was incredible last year, but I still think from a pure talent standpoint, Caleb Willaims is right there with him. So to me, the 108 seems way too rich. I'm taking the Jayden Daniels side here all day if I'm getting the 108 back. Erase the 108. I want the Caleb Willaims side. And I think that's the gap. Caleb Willaims, a first and a second for Daniels, I think is a good tier back, especially in a rebuild. But if it's the 103 in a sec, let's just say Andrews, he's over the 212, but let's just say that kind of cancels out. Willaims in the 103 for Daniels. Like, that's the type of trade I'm trying to make. Or Caleb in 105 and a 27 second, or Caleb in a 27 first second and maybe another second. Like, those type of trades, or Daniels in a second for Caleb in 2 firsts. Like, those are the type of trades that I would be actively trying to make if I'm trying to tier back from Daniels to Caleb Willaims. Because I do think long-term that these guys are going to be neck and neck. And I think there's a real possibility that Caleb Willaims could flip Jayden Daniels with if he goes out there next year and throws up 4,500 yards and 600 rushing yards, and Daniels has a little bit of a step back, they're going to flip in value. It's that quick. Look at CJ Stroud last year. He was literally valued as like the QB2 in Dynasty after a 4,000-yard rookie season and 27 touchdowns. Like, that quick. And now look at him now. He just plummets just with a down year. It can happen that quick for quarterbacks. They want to see them always being good. And for quarterbacks, it's really never the case to be that good unless you're in a Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen situation and you're that good of a player.
Yeah, I look at this trade and I look at making the difference between Daniels and Williams, very similar to the way that we looked at that Tua trade, is if I'm doing this, but the exact opposite spectrum. So if I'm adding 2 firsts to get from Tua to Caleb and getting a second back, if I'm rebuilding, I want to do the opposite. I want Caleb and 2 firsts for Daniels in a second. I don't think 1 first is enough at this point based off of what we saw the two of them do. Daniels, he gets Debo here. I don't think with the amount of weapons he has, I mean, let's be honest, Caleb had much better weapons last year. It's just when it comes to coaching staff and it comes to rushing upside, Caleb still had 489 rushing yards. A lot of people don't pay attention to that, but what we teach at Smash Accept is insulated trades, and an insulated trade would be getting Caleb and 227 first for Jaden Daniels and a 27 second. And you put yourself there, you get that insulation, you get the opportunity to turn that into 2. This is a trade, Snoog, I love making, right? This is where we talk about polishing up. And I don't want to call Jordan Addison and Dak Prescott turd sandwiches, but this is where you take 2 middling assets, right?
Yep.
And you take Dak Prescott, who I think is going to have a nice bounce back, and Jordan Addison, who's one of the better QB or wide receiver 2s in the entire league. Throw in a 27 third, and now all of a sudden you go from solid assets to a foundational asset you can build around.
Yeah, I love this trade as well. I do think Dak is going to have a big bounce back, especially with George Pickens there. I think they have a better run game than they would have had last year with Rico Dowdle and Zeke. I think it's better now with what they got, the trio or abundance of guys that they kind of put together there. And the weapons are just much better this year with CD, George Pickens, Ferguson healthy. I just think that they're going to have a much better offense. And the defense, like the team's still going to have to be in shootout games. So I think Dak Prescott is going to be a great player, but he's no Caleb Williams, and he doesn't have – Dak goes out there and throws up 4,800 yards and 35 touchdowns. Is he gaining value? Maybe like going up 2 spots. Mm-hmm. Caleb Williams goes out there, throws up 4,000 yards and 30 touchdowns, and he goes up probably 6-7 spots, and he's a QB 4 or 5 in Dynasty. Like,
and Ben Johnson's
that
offense,
much of a swing. Yeah,
it's a lot. That's an extra 400 yards and 10 touchdowns. That is going to happen. He is going to throw for 4,000 yards and 30 plus touchdowns. And that's where we're telling you now to go ahead and buy Caleb Williams back again, because you were getting him last year. We were bullish on him then. Now we're seeing trades here like this, Snoog. You talk about, let's take Rashad Bateman. I mean, Rashad Bateman really isn't in this trade too much, but Caleb Williams in the 101, even if you cancel them out, now you're getting the 105 and Bateman for Bryce Young in the 206. Like, this isn't a show where you turn them in, but that would be your cowbell right there.
That is
what you really try to do in a trade like this, Snoog, is when I make this trade, I say, hey, you know what, man? Like, I really need the quarterback. Let's talk here. I want Caleb Williams. You have Bryce Young. I think Caleb's worth the 101. Bryce is worth the 105 in your head. Let's try to get it done this way. And this is where you end up winning twice, because this is going to be Caleb Williams and Travion Henderson for Bryce Young and Ashton Jeanty. And I think the 206 is not enough to sway me away from going ahead and getting Caleb Williams here.
Yeah, I love this one. This is a trade that I've been trying to help out with, like rebuilders and players like that in super flex leagues that have the 101 and kind of have like a Bryce Young and a Trevor Lawrence. And it's like, okay, let's make that quarterback room better, and let's tank again, get the 101 in 2026. And let's take a Travion Henderson or a guy of that caliber at the 105. Or what we can do is turn that 105 into a 27 first plus or a 26 first plus. And in some cases, you might be able to do 105 in a second for 2 firsts in the future. Like, people will overpay for a Travion, or if Travis Hunter falls to 5, or Ted McMillan, which we've seen happen in plenty of the Twitter leagues and people posting all over Twitter. So this is a cowbell. This is hats off, because you're basically just upgrading big time at quarterback. And I think the difference between Caleb and Bryce Young is bigger than the difference between Jeanty and Travion Henderson. I really do. So
yeah. And even market value, a lot of people don't pay attention to that, but it's like, this is what you're going to get. These are the type of players that are there. That Bryce Young is never going to recoup his name cachet that he had year 1. He went through year 1, struggled, right? Year 2, got benched, and he did great down the stretch, but his value has not recouped enough. Where if Caleb Williams, people are going to forget about year 1 as soon as he comes out week 1 and throws 400 yards and 3 touchdowns. And then he's going to be unobtainable. And I could see him jump Patrick Mahomes this year. I could see him get up close to where Joe Burrow is, at least in value, because Burrow will be turning 28. Caleb's still just 22 years old. So there is a big gap there in age. The next trade we have here from Caleb Williams, and I love JJ McCarthy, but we got JJ McCarthy in the 106 on one side, or Caleb Williams the 301 and a 26 second. Now this one's, I think, very fair. It's a matter of preference. I think if I'm rebuilding, I would consider the McCarthy side, especially if you're either going to get Travion Henderson or Ward there at the 106. So it's a really nice pick. But if I'm in this position where I need a foundational quarterback, and I think JJ McCarthy has the skill set to be that foundational quarterback, but I think Caleb Williams is that guy.
So this one's interesting because both of these young quarterbacks both have phenomenal situations, probably some of the better situations that quarterbacks have in the NFL right now. I just don't think McCarthy can sniff Caleb Williams' upside. McCarthy can run a little bit, but he can't run like Caleb. He just doesn't have the tools and the ability to play at a high level like Caleb Williams, in my opinion. You're looking at this, to me, you're looking at the difference between like Kirk Cousins and Dak Prescott, which I think like a JJ McCarthy's kind of slotted into those type of talents, versus like a Justin Herbert, a Patrick Mahomes, a Jalen Hurts type of upside in fantasy football and skill set. So I just don't think McCarthy will ever be able to get to a Caleb Williams. Mm-hmm. You do get Judkins or Travion Henderson here on top 2, which is juicy, but it's just not enough for me. I wouldn't do that. I just wouldn't want to go from Caleb to a JJ McCarthy. I feel like that's such a bad move to make, but
I think it's a trade where I would counter back instead of the 106 random 26 first, because I think you're still in a good spot there. This one was another interesting trade here sent in. Jalen Hurts in the 26 second, or Caleb T. Higgins in the 26 third. Now, we are talking about the tush push potentially going back to get voted on again today. Jalen Hurts has been top 5 every single year. He's been there. He's a staple, but I think this gives you an opportunity to not only get a future QB1, but also to get a borderline wide receiver 1, if not high-end wide receiver 2 in Dynasty. Are you making this trade?
I am. I want Caleb and T. Higgins, especially in like the deeper start 10, start 11 formats. I think you're getting T. Higgins is foundational for me. I know he's 26 years old, but he's an elite young wide receiver 1. 26 is still young, and he's tied to Joe Burrow now for the long term. He's going to be a guy. He was wide receiver 2 in points per game last year. He can be a top 5, top 7 finisher pretty easily in that offense with that horrible defense. And I think there's a world where Caleb can get close to Jalen Hurts and like a total points scored in a year. Mm-hmm. I actually think that's like a good comp. Like Caleb Williams is never going to do the tush push and score 15 rushing touchdowns. But I do think like he can be as good as a type of rusher as like a Jalen Hurts is from like a non-tush push standpoint. Like just rushing the ball consistently for like 500, 600 yards, because I think Hurts hits that measure every year.
Yeah. Now, I mean, I think Jalen's a considerably better rusher, but Caleb is very underrated in that. People just assume that he's more of a pocket passer. But again, he ran for 489 yards. Snoog, this is the trade that I can't tell you, out of the 50 that were sent in, how many of them were Michael Penix Jr. and Caleb Williams trades. It was at least 6 or 7 of them. Some of them were straight up. This one's Michael Penix and the 210. Now, we both know that Caleb Williams' ceiling is considerably higher. The gap between them has to be at least a mid-first, not the 210. And I think a lot of these trades that people are starting to buy into the Kool-Aid of Michael Penix Jr. Yeah, it was great. He was top 3 in big-time throws, and he was top 3 in deep throws, but he was also worst in the NFL in accuracy across the middle. You know what I mean? And just rushing throws. So there was and also I believe he was bottom 5 when it came to, poor throw decisions as well. So it's like, I want Caleb here because he gets an improved offense, an improved situation. The Falcons really didn't do much. I like Michael Penix for Drake London, but the Falcons really didn't do a lot to add to that offense. They added Nick Nash, they didn't really go out there and wow in free agency or wow via the draft. And Caleb, if you can get Caleb Williams, even for Michael Penix in your 26 first, even your 27 first, because a lot of people are looking at 27 first, all of them are gold. Let's just be honest. The late ones are not going to be the same, in every class. Everyone gets excited. They got excited for the 23s. They got excited for the 2020s. They got excited for the 2017s. And if it's going to be late, it really can give you extended value because everybody just assumes that is going to be a better year and that you're going to be an earlier first. If you're a stud team, don't even debate it.
Yeah, I'm throwing this guy at 26 first as well, just to get him to do the trade. This is Michael Penix will never, ever, ever touch Caleb Willaims' ceiling. Skill sets aren't even close to each other. You're looking at the difference between like Michael Penix is probably like a Derek Carr at best. Caleb Willaims has top 5 upside. Like they're not close. They'll never be close. Take your Michael Penixes and go try to get Caleb Willaims. Even Justin Herbert, CJ Stroud's, like go throw a first on top of Penix to get up to those guys because they're all significantly better and have higher ceilings.
Guys, make sure you guys check us out. Our YouTube numbers are getting close to 4,000. Our Patreon has just been blowing up like crazy. 150 new subscribers in this past month. People are trying to smash their rookie drafts, get themselves ahead for the offseason for redraft and for dynasty. We cover both. We got you covered from all different angles. Patreon.com/smash accept. For as little as $5 a month, yes, less than a cup of coffee, you can get access to myself, Snoog, all of our rankings, all of our content, all of our advice, plus a room of 800 different people talking shop 24/7. So thanks again for tuning in, guys, and enjoy the process. Go get Caleb right now.